I'm currently studying game design and programming at university. I'm in my third year, which means I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I'm just about to graduate. Because of that, I thought this might be quite a good time to share kind of just what I've experienced over these 3 years. Maybe if it's something you want to get into or have always thought about, or even if you already do it and you want to find out someone else's perspective. So the first thing that I found most impactful when I first started studying game development was how important teamwork was. I was studying computer science before university, and then just making games on my own. I never really kind of come into contact with that team environment for like a product which included like software and all this other stuff. Usually with game development, with regards to game development, that was kind of all done by myself. And what this kind of really showed me was how great it can be to work in a team on these things. I mean, if you want to be an indie developer and do your own thing, that's also fine. I mean, I had some ideas that were pretty great, sure, but until I'd actually worked in a team and had these constructively criticized and kind of looked over and recommendations made, that you start to realize how much better that idea could be in an iterative and in a team process. These games are made of so many different art forms. You have the sound design, the visual art, the software, everything all into one. And each one of those is kind of a niche in the sense that if you want the best of the best, it kind of needs to be someone that's, dedicated their time to that one subject, or at least that's where you get the most success, I think. The second thing I found, and actually to me this is kind of the most important one, was how iterative the process is of game development. I mean, things are made, things are built, functional, good working things, and they'll just have to be scrapped most of the time because you're constantly trying to make this product better, this game better. And in order to do that, you have to let some things go and kind of maybe keep parts of them but still build on them. Coming from the engineering side, it meant building these systems which were strong, they were functional, they were unique. It was great, they were good and they were working. But at some point they'd become obsolete, or they just wouldn't work with the new system we have in terms of design. So it was almost heartbreaking to keep spending so much time building these things and then having them get thrown away. So the main thing it really taught me from an engineering perspective is that these systems have to be much more adaptable in game development than they would be elsewhere, I think. I mean, if you're building an app, you kind of know that, okay, it might have 10, 20 different features, whatever, but each of those features probably won't change too much than what they were designed to do in the first place. In game development, you'll find that only after the second or third round of testing that one feature actually isn't as good as it was in the first or second round. So you'll find that you'll actually end up going back and needing to change that in a different way, and that system that was built for that feature now also suddenly has to adapt to this new change, which can sometimes be pretty drastic. So to kind of make the best is to get this weird balance between, you want to get the most abstract system you can, which also has the most clarity for the developer or the user, so people still know what it does. So the third thing that really got drilled into us over these 3 years was that being a game designer and being into game development, you're actually a rulesmith. Not only as a programmer where you set out a set of rules for something to do something, but to make an experience into a game, you have to confine it to a set of rules. And that's the difference between a sort of visual experience that you can maybe interact with to something that's really a game. There's a win condition, there's a lose condition, and you have these rules that you've set out for the player to adhere to. Once you really understand that concept at its core, you take that into your game engine, and you can start taking your ideas, which are, may not be that solidified, or they might not actually have that kind of game set behind them yet. But if you bring them in and apply this basic rule set and start crafting these rules in the context of your game, it starts to really become, challenging. There's a goal, and then before you know it, you have a functional game that you've laid out with these new sets of rules. And that's the kind of most important thing, or the core concept of game development. So the third thing that's really stuck with me at the end of these 3 years has definitely been a more just do it, like just make it kind of approach. At the very beginning it was, much more of oh, should I release this? Should I keep building this? Should I do this? Should I do that? Whereas now it's, oh, that's an okay idea. Let's prototype that. Let's get that out in a few hours, a day or two. Just a very small prototype and play with it. It works? Okay, well maybe this would be good. Okay, we'll just do it. And kind of going back to what was said about it being an iterative process, that's kind of how that works, is that you don't necessarily have to go into this with one game that's going to change the world. The best way to actually make progress and have things that you can show and have something that you can stand on is that you just have to make these things and put them out. If you spend 2 months building something, no matter what it is, if you spent 2 months doing it and put that time in, it's going to be something. It's going to be something. And I think that is one of the most important things that I came to realize, because that was never really something I'd understood before I'd gotten into game development. I'm sure you can learn that through other fields, but this is just the one for me. Now, instead of being that someone that's just waiting and thinking, oh, I'll just wait until that idea clicks and then boom, I'll be a millionaire. It's now, okay, I have an idea, I'm going to do that right now. Which now means I'm leaving this course and continuing my professional experience with a whole different array of games, systems, artwork behind me, which I can now show for that. So I think that ultimately that's a much better scenario to be in than saving up all this energy for that one idea that you think is going to change everything, and then perhaps it doesn't for some people, because in most cases it can't be for everyone, and I think that risk is too high to take. And even then, if someone saw any one thing on your portfolio, they might find that a little bit strange. So the last thing I want to share that I've kind of found after completing this experience, and what I kind of feel, is that finding your niche is definitely one of the most important things you can do. I mean, I know some people like to wear all the hats, and if they do that, it's incredible. I admire that, I really do, especially now after trying all these different fields in one set. But I feel like for you as a person, you definitely become more marketable when you have one skill set which you've really been able to show off, and one that you have truly developed. And I think the same goes for game development, unless you're in a very, very small studio and people need all these different tasks. More often than not, if you're looking for a kind of job that requires a game development role, you'll want to go into that knowing that you have something to offer them, which is of a much higher standard than someone who knows a little bit of everything. So from my point of view, I see teaming up, going for your own niche is definitely a big positive, and something that makes you much more marketable. So yeah, that wraps up my 5 tips I've learned over 3 years of game development. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. If you agree with some things I said, or if you disagree, just let me know. I'd love to see your point of view. So yeah, thanks for watching.